Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Step to Self-Help, and where we're using self-help resources for managing mild to moderate symptoms of mental health difficulties. This is managing anxiety session number 2. If you have not seen session number 1 already, I highly recommend you to see session number 1, which is about introduction about anxiety and what does it do to us, which is impact, some symptoms, and questionnaires. How can we measure the level of anxiety that we are experiencing? Okay. Now, this session is about understanding why do we worry and how can we start using worry management as an effective intervention to help with some of the worries that we've been experiencing. Now, the agenda for the session today is why do we keep worrying so? Although we know that there are impacts, we experience unhelpful impacts, and there are physical symptoms, there are cognitive symptoms, unhelpful behaviors, and emotional distress linked with anxiety, but we still keep on worried. So there must be something to it that we keep doing this behavior over and over again, because every function, every behavior has some sort of function. It is serving some purpose, because you may believe it is doing something for you. So we will explore that. Okay. The second thing that we will learn about is how do we create a worry journal. So worry journal is a very effective tool so that you can understand what is going on in your mind all day long, or what areas of your life are you concerned about, what pops in your goes through your head every day. So it's taking a lot of your space and energy. They want to take it out of your brain and put it on a paper, just to have more understanding and of what is it that we need to deal with again. And we will understand the difference between practical and hypothetical worries today, okay? Because some issues that you have will be solvable, practical difficulties, and some worries that you have may be purely hypothetical. There are no facts, or you can't control anything in that situation, but that worry is still there. So we will explore both types of worries, and we will also learn how to ground ourselves while we are doing this worry journal. We are thinking about our worries. Okay, so it can be quite distressing when you start writing your worries down. It can feel overwhelming, so grounding is important, right? So why do we worry, and what does it do for us? As I said previously, every behavior has a function. So now, what we think worry is doing for us, some people hold these unhelpful beliefs about worry that if I keep worrying, I will be ready for the worst case scenario. So you're playing this script over and over again in your head, that you, with an expectation, with a hope that you'll get somewhere, and then you'll find a resolution in your head. Okay. Then some people feel that worrying shows I care. And if you start thinking about something, then what it would mean to you is that you're ignorant, you're not careful about your life, that area of your life. And of course, you don't want to feel ignorant. You want to feel useful, which is why your brain is constantly working at it. So that's why some people, they worry. But this is an unhelpful belief that you hold, okay? For some people, it means that I'm a very good thinker and I can work in my mind, can work this problem out in my mind. And then by working this worry in my mind, I can prevent something bad from happening. Does it make sense? So if you think about this, what belief do you have about your worry? Why do you worry? And the other reason is intolerance of uncertainty. Many people struggle with not knowing outcomes, okay? But worrying or thinking too much gives us a false sense of control there. if I think it through, maybe I'll be prepared. But in reality, most future events are unpredictable. Some people think if I worry, if I start worrying, I might be caught off guard. But that is again not the true reflection of reality. There will be uncertain situations. There will be things that are beyond your control. And thinking about those things continuously is not going to, unlikely to change the outcome. Yes, you can be a little bit more prepared about thinking, how can I prevent this from coming true? But there is only so much you can do. So when we say there is only so much we can do, means problem solving. We're doing something about it, but something that we can absolutely not control is uncertain, beyond your control. That's quite difficult to tolerate. Okay. So some behaviors will worsen this pattern. So if you feel that, if you have unhelpful mental strategies, such as you suppress your worries, the more you suppress them, the more they come to the surface. Have you noticed sometimes that you just try to quiet your mind, but you just can't stop it? Your overthinking brain will not stop. You're suppressing it, you're getting more and more tangled with these. So now you just kind of like had this visual of you trying to press a beach ball into the seawater. It just keeps popping up. You're putting a lot of energy into it, but it keeps popping up. What's the point? And then some people do this positive thinking. You know what? I shouldn't think about this. I shouldn't think like this. Everything will be okay. But that is actually an unhelpful mental strategy. If you don't act, or if you don't use the right strategies, it will not all be okay. So we need to learn something more, some helpful coping mechanism. And then arguing and getting tangled with your worries, not tangled, sorry, it's tangled with your worries. It's a typing error. It's arguing with your worries like arguing with a toddler when a child when they're having tantrum. Can you rationalize anything when a toddler is having a tantrum? If you have a toddler, or if you have been through that phase, where do you get to by arguing? You just escalate that situation so much that it goes beyond control. That's what exactly happened with your worry. The more you argue with your worry, the worse it gets. Then there are some unhelpful behavioral strategies, such as seeking excessive reassurance from other people. Do you think this will be okay? Do you think I'm thinking the right thing? Do you think things are going to be all right? What did you do when you were in the right in a similar situation? So you seek validation, you seek reassurance. But will that work? Is that likely to work in your situation? Okay. Then seeking excessive information from social media could be, but you just, where something is not right, you just kind of like start to gather a lot of information, and a lot of information overload. It may cause like, more, overwhelmed, like when you had this little chest pain, and then you start to look on internet, oh my God, is it like a symptom of stroke? And then they give you maybe more symptoms. You feel like, am I going to die? Am I going to have a heart attack? So what you're doing is you're actually making yourself worse by this unhelpful behavior strategy. Now, some people start overeating, comfort eating, start to rely on drugs, caffeine, alcohol, dangerous sport. But these are again unhelpful strategies to manage your anxiety, and that they're not really getting you anywhere. They're just making the cycle and the pattern of worrying worse. Okay. So we don't want to do this. What we want to do instead is use worry management, which is a structured and a guided way to manage your worries. That is what we are going to cover. So why do we need a worry journal in the first place? Writing your worries down will move them from your head onto a paper, which creates a distance between your rational mind and your anxious brain. So I would highly recommend you name your anxious brain something silly, something that you feel that you can relate anxiety with that. Mine is blob. So my blob is active. So I can separate blob from myself. Right? Does it make sense? So you can name your anxious brain. This also stops the mental replay loop and gives your mind a break. Okay. The other reason of starting a worry journal is that we need to identify patterns such as we begin to notice when, where, and why these worries appear. It also helps us to see recurring triggers and realistic fears at times when you're most vulnerable to worrying. And writing worries in a worry journal also distinguishes between practical and hypothetical worries. Practical worries are something that you can act on. Hypothetical worries are what-if scenarios that you cannot control. So a journal will help you respond differently, problem solve for practical problems, and letting go of hypothetical worries. This is what we are going to learn using in the next upcoming sessions. The other benefit is it reduces rumination at night. Some people feel that, overthinking brain doesn't let you sleep. The writing worries down reassures the brain that they are stored safely, so you don't need to rehearse them repeatedly, and this can also improve sleep. Another benefit is it promotes problem solving. When you see a worry more clearly, it's easier to break it into small steps and then develop solutions. And the last benefit, not the least, is it tracks your progress over time. Looking back, you often realize that many worries never came true. And this builds evidence against anxieties, false alarms, and it strengthens your confidence in coping. Okay? Now, how do we create a worry journal? It's a simple 5-column journal. Okay. And you can just draw this while we are talking to each other. So I'll give you a minute to draw this journal in your notebook if you have, or you can just print this out. Okay, so I hope you have created this table now. So there are 5 columns. First one is situation. Second one is thought or worry that you have in that situation. The third column is about the emotion that you experience as a result of that worry, an overall situation. Then the intensity of emotion that you experience, and then the 5th column is practical versus hypothetical. We'll leave that for now. We'll come to it a little bit later on. So now you see the intensity of emotion will determine the need for action. The more distress you experience because of a worry, the more important that worry is. To start with, a worry that gives you 30% emotional distress is maybe we can just put in the background. We can deal with that later. But a worry that is having 99% distress on you, that's what we need to focus on first. Okay, it's really important for us to understand which worry is having how much distress. That link is important. Now I have included several examples of worry journals. This is one of the patients I had, and I've just picked up a few worries from them. So the daytime duration is that, what if I forget what if I forget everything when we do? They're worried about that. They feel guilty and worried, and the emotional intensity is 80%. The second worry is haven't paid my bill. They're worried about it with a 70% emotional intensity. And then the third one is, what if I never get promoted? Makes them feel quite sad. And the emotional intensity is 60%. Now, let's think about this, like whether these worries are practical or hypothetical. You can do this now. Assess this client for me. Yeah. This is just another example. This is my worry journal that, not my own, but kind of I've created this with more of a simplistic look. The situation in my office, worries, what if my child struggles to make friends at school? Distress is 70%. And again, 70. Sorry. Yeah, in my office, I need to send my electricity meter reading. I'm in my office thinking about that. Distress rating 60%. Then the next worry, again in my office. What if I never progress in my career? Distress rating 70%. And then when I'm trying to settle in my bed, the worry is I have a presentation due on Friday, and then that is 80% anxiety. Now, if you notice, all my office time has gone into worrying about these things. So where is my focus at work? I'm not really focusing at work. I'm thinking about these things. And these things can be hypothetical or practical. Does it make sense? Because now the reason is that, in so many situations, you're actually not living in that present moment. You're detached and you're thinking about all this. So it takes a lot of space and, but both in the day, time and mental space. It doesn't let you focus. It didn't let me focus on my work. It's not letting me sleep because I'm still thinking about it. Okay. Now, the other important thing that we need to learn before we start the worry journal, while you are creating your worry journal, while you're logging your worries, is to ground first. Yeah. So grounding is different for different people. For me, grounding is just going to my mom and putting my head in her lap. That's grounding for me. Yeah. That just makes me feel so calm. Can't do that anymore, but that's what it means to me, grounding. Um think about what makes you feel grounded, and we need to introduce some of those activities, some of those actions when you're doing this worry management, because it can be quite overwhelming. So worries often trigger strong feelings. If you begin writing while overwhelmed, your thoughts may spiral. And grounding helps calm our body and mind so we can reflect more clearly. There are various methods of grounding, but I'm going to start with scanning your body from top of your head to the tips of your toes. Where do you notice you're holding tension? Now breathe calmness into those tense places and exhale all the anxiety. Second grounding technique is name one thing in the room that you have never noticed before. The next one is name 3 people and 3 things you're thankful for. Name 3 things in the room that perfectly still. Name 3 things that are moving, and many more grounding techniques which will work for you. There is another way of physical grounding, which is known as progressive muscle relaxation. I don't know if you can click and access this link, but I will include this link. It's a very good video. It's only 6 minutes long. You can do this guided, and one should learn this. You can do this unguided. Okay, I'm not going to play this right now because it's just going to take up extra time during the session. So now this is just a very quick overview of what we will be covering in the next 2 sessions. Managing hypothetical worries using worry time, when you analyze all of your worries in a set dedicated time and then let go of them. It is done with a guided, structured support. There is a technique to do this, and I will discuss this in our next session. Then we will also discuss distraction techniques, and they help us tolerate uncertainty. And then grounding, it calms us when we are overwhelmed, and it lets us distance from other thoughts, often known as cognitive diffusion, which is creating distance between thought and yourself. Okay. Now, practical difficulties can be resolved by problem solving, which is finding realistic solutions to our problems. And rest and recharge. When we are rested, our brain works better, faster. So we will find some strategies to rest and recharge. How can we feel more rested, and how can we recharge ourselves so that we can do the problem solving more optimally? I don't know if that's a word, but yeah, we need to be more optimum to problem solve. And the third thing we will do is stick to the plan, create small goals, because they are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So it gives a closure to your problem. I hope it will